If you want to hear new episodes of the show 1 week early, plus bonus episodes and unlimited access to more of Texas Monthly's reporting and commentary on the state, subscribe to Texas Monthly at texasmonthly.com/audio. You can find that link in the show notes for this episode.
Texas Monthly.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Viva Tejano, a Texas Monthly podcast about Tejano music, told by the people who make it and live it. I'm your host, JB Sauceda. This week, I sat down with Elsa Garcia. Elsa established herself as one of the signature voices in Tejano music, a marquee star with 4 straight gold records in the thick of the golden age of Tejano music. For her powerful voice, her stage presence, and for her commitment to making music her way, she earned the name La Primera Dama del Tejano. Then, in 1999, she stepped away from the music. It was a swift, clean cut. She didn't sing anywhere, but maybe at family birthday parties. For a while, she was a receptionist at the Houston Grand Opera. Last summer, though, she returned to the stage at the Nortex Live Music Festival in Monterrey. Now, as you'll hear, she's busy planning a second act in a career that already helped to define Tejano music. I sat down with Elsa in her hometown of Houston, and we kicked off our conversation by watching video of her performing on the Johnny Canales show in the mid-90s in front of a huge outdoor crowd on stage just south of the border in Tamaulipas. All right, here's Elsa Garcia. As I kind of mentioned to you on a minute ago, part of the way that this whole thing started was that we were working on this documentary about Johnny Canales, and it started this like whole discussion about just who he is and what he means, etc. And so when we decided to try to promote it through this podcast, we thought, well, why don't we use clips of his show to sort of be the through line for it. And so I'd love to show you a clip and just kind of tell me what you're thinking about, what you remember, and just anything that comes to mind as you watch this.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
A ver, un grito, raza. No, hombre, apenas estamos comenzando aquí. Qué tremenda gente. A ver, mira, una toma desde aquí hasta allá y las gradas allá que nos hagan también allá porque ya no cabe la gente aquí. A ver, toda la raza.
Do you recognize this clip?
Yes, absolutely. I remember it very vividly. It's in Tamaulipas. It's one of the border towns to Texas and Mexico, and he was very, very powerful in a good way, in a good-natured way, and we had no idea that the crowd was going to be this huge. This was like the second biggest crowd that we had already covered in Mexico.
Were you nervous?
No. He made you feel at home.
Really?
Johnny made you feel at home, yeah. He was like family, yeah.
What was in terms of like scale of audiences, like was there something about his ability to bring in people at that size? Like you said, this was like the second largest, audience for you.
Yes.
Was that like, was his show just able to bring people in, in a way?
Yes, absolutely, because the show not only was Tejano, his show was norteño, it was banda, it was a little bit of everything that the Mexican side and the Texas side kind of we gelled together, and so he had groups from all over, from all genres at one point, but his main focus was Tejano, later called Tex-Mex, later called Regional Mexicano, which is what my category was according to my record company, Capitol, because I recorded, if I remember right, I think I recorded like 5 or 6 albums before I got my first international hit, which is Ya Te Vi. And so that tells you that, it takes a lot. I right now that I'm, have taken a break these last few years, I feel for all the groups that are out there hustling and, doing their thing because they don't have the backing of the big recording companies like we did.
So when I was reading up on you, I read that you were an accountant and a
Yes.
bookkeeper before you did like music.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to go that far back?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we take it back a little bit further than that, I got married at 18. Back then, during my generation, it was expected. You finished high school, there was not this thing about, oh, you're going to college. It just didn't happen. Back then, I think people will agree. It was just expected. You finish high school, you're going to get married and start your family. Your husband is who works and the breadwinner, and that was just my generation, how it happened. Well, little did I know that my husband had a band. And so,
Like you actually didn't know?
I did not know. Had
Really?
zero clue. And I had always told myself, I'm never going to marry a musician. They drink, they smoke, they philander, they're out there and the girls like them. And, I didn't want that life. And so here I am. Here I am, already married. And so, as they say, can't beat them, join them.
I mean, but
So-
how did he have a band? Was he just kind of sneaking off and playing music? Like,
Well,
or
it was like more of a...
like a hobby?
Yeah, more of a hobby for
okay.
him, because he played the saxophone and he liked to put guys together, musicians together, and they'd, small little gigs or whatever, nothing professional, and they weren't looking to be a big band that I remember.
But then you realize that they have one and you decide to join them.
Well, what happened is that, I found out and he came forward and, he started having the rehearsals there at the house. I was in the other room. I already had my son. You learn stuff, without even realizing it. They eventually had a gig at the University of Houston. It was called the Cougar Den at that time. And so I would go to the gigs. He would take me to the gigs. I wouldn't stay home. They wasn't that bad. And this one particular night, the guitar player, who was also the singer, Raymond, got sick. He had laryngitis. And so he didn't know if he was going to finish the night or not. So he just couldn't pull it off. My husband gets off the stage, comes straight to me. He says, I need for you to save the night. I know you know the songs. I've heard you sing them in the shower. And I was really I am a super shy, introverted type of person. But, he asked me as a favor to save the night. They wouldn't get paid if the gig didn't get done. So, yeah, I got up there. The rest is history. The band voted me in, is what Victor said. The singer got so upset, he just quit. So
Wow.
he had to find a new guitar player, and, that we took it from there. And then I would take my breaks in between having children, because really it was just a fun thing, a hobby local thing, as most local bands do.
When did it become, like, when was there a decision that, like, this is going to be what you're going to do?
Props to my husband. He had the vision. The vision that a lot of local groups never put into action. He did. One day he says, we finally had our first hit, so we were getting calls from all over the U.S. for tours, for performances, and
That was
so,
Ya Te Vi?
Yes, Ya Te Vi.
Es que me dijeron que cuando yo salgo te vas de parranda. Y es que has de entender que has de querer a la que te ama.
Most groups, you do local weddings, quinceañeras, anniversary parties, backyard barbecues, and that's as far as it goes. But Victor had this special ability to see that there was something beyond local for me or for us and for the group. And so we took a chance. He quit his job. I kept working. By then, I was a radio DJ at the #1 Mexican station in Houston.
Which was?
La Tremenda, 10 a.m.
Okay.
I started out at KYST, which was the first 24-hour, 7 days a week, All Tejano FM. So I started there on the morning drive with Jaime, and so it was a really fun time.
How did you end up on the radio? Was that also just a function of you being a musician suddenly?
So we recorded our first 45, Tu Dices, and I forget what the other song, the flip side was, but there was an FM radio, KPFT. So at that moment, there was these two guys, Gordy and Jumpin' Jess, that had 1 hour, and they would play old school Tejano. They invited us, "Hey, bring us your latest song. We heard you had a song, And so we took this 45, and they played it, and the owner of KYST that was about to open the station, that's how he found me.
Wow.
Recruited me, and
Incredible.
he said, "You have an amazing voice on the radio when you do interviews, And so I left my bank job, took a chance in radio, something I had never, ever done in my life. And so I was there about a year and a half, and then they started running short on money, and they still owe me money, by the way.
That's a good accountant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't forget, it was over $4,800 that they owe me. So, hey, guys.
Yeah, if you're out there.
Yeah, if you're out there, I could still use it. But anyway, so, I always saw things as a stepping stone. Why cry over spilled milk type of thing, right? You move on. Mm-hmm. While I was there, I get this magical call from the program director of La Tremenda, the #1 local AM Mexican, 100% Mexican. So I did this sign of the cross, and I said, here we go. I've got to turn this Tex-Mex ability and just go 100% Spanish, and I did. Things have really come fairly easy to me in life, and I feel very blessed. And yeah, I was there for almost 3 years, and that's when Ya Te Vi came out. And so my husband has this vision: we're going to go on tour, we're going to give it a shot, and do or die. And so I go to my program director, my boss, and I said, "I've got this opportunity. I've got a hit on the radio. I think and I want to try my luck. I want to go out there and never have a regret. What if I had given it a shot and gone on the road and why look back and say, what if?" And so he says, "You've got the #1 rated talk show in Houston. I can't let you go." And I said, "This is a once in a lifetime thing for me." He says, "Tell you what, let's compromise. I'll give you a leave for 3 months because I know you're going to come right back." And I said, "Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope you're wrong." And we left, and we went on the road, and we traveled all the Midwest, Michigan, Illinois, and we got as far as New York. There are a lot of people from Puebla up in New York City. And we had a promoter that would take us there, a promoter that would book you 3 different clubs the same night. Imagine.
That's a
Imagine
lot. Just on the band.
Getting the
out.
stamina.
Yeah.
You're right. To go up there and, give everybody, the best for an hour, and then jump in a van and head to the next club, and you do another hour there. Life was so different back then, You don't even find that happening anymore. But yeah, we went through that.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was very intense.
It seems like over and over, you and Victor both seem to have been very much in tune with the business opportunity side of this. Because I feel like a lot of creative musicians they're like, "I don't want to deal with the business.
Right.
Leave it over there.
Yes.
Just let me play."
Yes.
And y'all seem to be chasing the opportunity, like the business opportunity and all of that.
Yes.
Is that
but
true?
I think it wasn't really a we, it wasn't really a we. It was a Victor. It was a Victor thing. Because I had to focus on the talent side. I had to focus on the next hit. I had to focus on finding the next big song. You're only as good and as popular as your last, hit. It's very stressful, but I think when you're in the moment, I think when you're living it, I just focused on, I got to get the next hit. So I would find music. I would listen to so much music. As you know, in Tejano, in Tex-Mex, we are all cover bands. before we do anything else. We are cover bands. That's how we all start. Once you start getting your hits, the writers start coming to you. Hey, I have this song. I have a little cassette. Can you listen to it? And, you take it from there. You pick and choose, and you decide, what path you want to take as far as style. And so I always wanted to be true to my style. As a matter of fact, I took it to the point where I would not listen to other female artists, Tejano artists, because I didn't want to get influenced. I appreciate and respect everything they did, but I knew that in my mind, subconsciously, some of that stuff may come and blend into me, and I wanted my own style, and I think that's what we accomplished. Because when we first started out, they wanted us. The record company was based out of San Antonio, the capital of Tejano music. But if you go and you record, you're going to get engineers that are used to doing their Tejano sound. And I didn't want that. I respected it. I loved it. But I wanted the Elsa Garcia sound.
What would you define as your sound? Like, what are the things that kind of stick out to you that differentiate you?
If you listen to a Tejano, and you listen to Elsa, you'll know immediately, almost immediately, the difference.
He prometido que te de olvidar. Cuánto has querido, yo te supe dar. Sola y herida, así me dejaste.
The synthesizer had more of a, sustainable notes. Later on, much later on, after we removed the horns, we brought in the accordion. And that's where we really, really found ourselves, because me being originally from Monterrey, Mexico, we had been raised listening to nothing but norteño music. Nothing but norteño, and it's very different from Tejano. You get into the studio and, I started playing, okay, let's put the accordion here, let's put synthesizer here, and you just play with it, and eventually it becomes the norm to where your musicians, going back to the studio for the next album, they know what they got to do. I had a really, really badass band. I'm telling you, I have to brag because they were all amazing, amazing.
You've given Victor a lot of credit for really helping push this along in the early stages. I mean, but this was like his band. This was his thing that he was doing, over here. And how were those dynamics once you became really the focus of the band, and it wasn't like a named band, it was you, right?
Yeah. Back then we were Ash Wednesday.
Okay.
And before that, my husband's was Cannabis, Sativa. He just picked these really great different names.
When did the shift from Ash Wednesday to Elsa become?
I think it went from Ash Wednesday to All American Band, and then after that is when it became the Elsa Garcia Band.
Okay.
And then after that, it was just Elsa Garcia. It was just a natural transition. At this point, Victor was taking the reins on the management side and the logistics and, that whole thing. It was just a natural transition. It was never, hey, you got to do this now, and I'm going to have to take the reins here. No, it was never like that. It was really just...
It just worked.
It just worked. And, by the grace of God, here we are. This year we're celebrating our 52nd anniversary. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the subjects that I've brought up with people a lot is just this idea that I think a lot of people perceive Tejano musicians, and Tejanos just generally, as like mostly just being into that type of music. But if you go and you talk to really any number of the musicians, they've all had a lot of other influences that are outside of Tejano music. And so I'm curious, like, what you mentioned that your parents were musicians. Did they play norteño? What did they?
No,
what
my
was
mom
their...
was a singer.
Okay.
My mom was a singer. She played a little bit of guitar. She knew a few chords.
What did she sing in particular?
Regional, with norteño and mariachi.
Okay.
Yeah, she toured with Vicente. She toured with
Really?
Las Hermanitas Huerta. Yeah, back then what they called caravanas, where they would put all these artists together, and they'd take them from town to town to town to town. So, yeah, she was very fortunate, had those great opportunities too. She was by my side the whole time. She went on tour with me. She was in the studio with me every record. I needed to have her there, and my siblings and I sometimes talk about this, and we all kind of feel like she lived vicariously through me because I get emotional. Because I think she didn't have the support that I had. Excuse me. I think she just didn't have the right husband that believed in her like my husband believed in me, and so that's why I feel that she lived through me things that she would have loved to live, but life is life. But yeah.
This conversation resonates with me because I've always felt like, my parents, both my parents have always been so supportive, but they're, I'm struggling with this now, right, with my mom. My mom's got Alzheimer's, and it's an awful, awful disease.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And I feel like I'm at a kind of crescendo, or maybe not the peak of my career, but I'm at a really amazing spot right now where I'm at. And she's only partially able to participate in it. My dad told me the other day that, she kind of has these episodes, but he can play my TV show and it'll kind of reset her a little bit. And she goes, oh, there's JV, Yes. And I think that there's like a chord that moms can have that's struck when we're able to kind of go do the next level up from what they were able to achieve.
I believe honestly that our parents want us to be better than they are. Even though you do see situations where parents hinder and hold back their children from becoming who they truly are because of their insecurities. They don't want their kid to be better than them. Oh, it's going to make me look bad, But on the contrary, your children are a tribute to what you brought to the table to them and what you taught them and showed them how to do. And I think it's a tribute to your parents when they see how you do better than they have possibly done.
How many records were you selling back in the 90s?
Well,
what is a gold record?
I think a gold record in Tejano back then was, and Victor may correct me, I think it's between 50 to 80,000.
Wow, okay.
Which doesn't compare to the American.
Yeah, but that's
right?
a lot for like a genre.
Yes,
a
small
in
genre
like
like
this.
Tejano is.
And so you went all that time,
and we did it consecutively.
Yeah.
Four consecutive gold albums, which was unheard of. Unheard of.
Right. And so what's interesting about your career was right around that period, like the height of a lot of this Tejano music.
Yeah.
You stepped back, right? I mean, why? What
well,
was the decision
it wasn't
there?
actually it wasn't the height. By then, things had started flowing downward. I think my last time on stage was in 99. My brother insisted it was 2000, but I think it was in 99.
So 25 years ago, roughly.
Yeah.
Since
Pretty
you
much,
performed.
yeah.
What drove that decision? Why did you decide to take a break?
It was a conscious decision. We were coming back from a tour from Florida, and the tour had been fine. It was good. People came, and this was like in, it had to have been in 96, 97. And I told my husband, I said, I think I need a vacation. I think I need some time off to recharge and rethink all this.
Was there just a lot of pressure, or were you just tired?
No, what happened was that it really goes back to when Selena passed away. And, people blame the DJs and the radio stations because they kept repeating to the point of, the listeners, we get programmed if we listen to things, right? Repetition, you get programmed. And they kept saying, oh, the music has died, Selena's gone, the music has died, blah, blah, blah. And, I think people started believing
Yeah,
it.
you actually, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like
People
the party's over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much so that I think the record companies stepped back and said, well, maybe it's true, Maybe it's true. The hell with Elsa, the hell with Mas, the hell with, Roberto, the hell with, everybody else. Like, they pretty much indirectly tried to finish our careers, to end our careers.
Could you feel that just, as you were working?
We felt it because when we were doing, when we were touring Texas, we could see that the amount of people, and I'm being honest, the amount of people started, going down and down and down, and we were coming up short with paying the band members, and eventually, one by one, they said, I think I'm going to get out. Most of that stuff happened directly with Victor. But, yeah, I told him, I said, Bev, I think I need to recharge, and so we took a couple of weeks off, and we just never went back. Never went back.
It was as easy as that.
It was that easy. It's always been that easy.
Did you miss it?
I think I did, honestly, JB, because I did go through, why did I do this? Did I do the right thing? What do I do now? That was my biggest question. What do I do now? So, I let those weeks go by. I got over myself. I've always been a strong person. And so I just said, get over yourself, Elsa, and, move on. And we literally started from zero, or negative zero. And so my husband got a job, and my brother, by that time, that was in my band, my brother JC, who was an accomplished singer. By this time, he was working at the Opera House. What is the name of the opera?
Oh, Houston Grand Opera.
The Houston Grand Opera.
Yeah.
He was working there. Huh. And so they had a position as a receptionist, JB. I got hired. I was a receptionist, and it was amazing, It was amazing.
And I've wondered this exact scenario. Like, where did everybody go?
Yeah.
Right? Like, did everybody make enough money that they don't work anymore? Or they
no,
go find
that'll never happen in Tejano.
Yeah.
That'll never happen.
This is fascinating to me.
It's in Tejano, you don't see millionaires. You don't even see anyone close to being a millionaire, When Selena passed away, this is public information, she had 73 or 70-something thousand in her bank. Mm-hmm. That's the whole picture right there. Look how successful she was at that moment. Sell out, the Astrodome twice for the rodeo, all, successful gigs. That's what she had in her bank.
For you, one day you've got gold records, you're playing these shows, and you're kind of seeing things like scale back. You decide, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
And the next you're a receptionist at the, Grand Opera House.
Yeah.
What was that like, navigating that, just mentally and personally? How did you feel about all that?
I never put thought into it. I just do what I need to do at this moment, at this time and place in my life. That's it. That is it. My children, and now putting, food on the table. So from there, my sister has a big position at a bank. So my sister Lynn had already worked there. My brother JC had already worked there, a couple of cousins. And so she brought me in as the assistant to the main guy there. And so, then moved on and became a realtor, got my license, and started doing real estate. And I did well in real estate, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing because people were coming to me because of my name. And they weren't coming to buy houses. They wanted to come and
just meet.
Yes. And I'm not ungrateful. I'm very grateful that people remembered and people, wanted to take a picture, but it wasn't what I wanted. I had already moved on.
Yeah.
I had already moved on, right?
Yeah.
And, promoters and everybody never stopped calling, can you come to this gig? No, I'm out, And so We put our three children through college. All three graduated because that was our main goal. My husband and I, from day one, our children are going to go to college. We didn't have that opportunity. I said, our kids are going to do it. So, you know, we had a beautiful life after music. So it wasn't, fast forward, 25 years that, we keep getting the calls, and we finally, my brother and my sister took me to lunch and convinced me that it was time.
So that was going to be my next question. I mean, I'm a month ago, this podcast comes out, and I get a message that you, I think, had either just played or were about to play your first show in a long time. In
Monterey. After 25 years, we hit one of the biggest stages in Monterey.
How did that go?
Sold out to capacity. I believe the records there, including standing room, was over 25,000 people at the Arena Monterrey.
25 years later, you bring in 25,000 people in Monterey.
Yeah.
What did that feel like for you?
It was surreal. That's all I can say. It was surreal. It was all types of emotions flowing. Building to that day was tough because here in this beautiful place is where I came to listen to my vocals and see if I still had it, yes or no, and that was going to be the determining moment.
So it wasn't even really a given that you'd be able to.
Right.
They convinced you to do it, but you still wanted to just come and see.
Absolutely.
Does my voice work
in the
anymore?
back of my mind, yes. I even asked him, I said, I don't even know if I can sing. I mean, I sing happy birthday to my kids and my grandkids,
Outside of the shower in your car, had you sung much in 25 years?
No,
Wow.
no, nothing public, nothing. No, everything was just, little parties.
What do you attribute so much of that passion to have 25,000 people show up after all this time?
Yeah.
Was it a shock to you? Were you concerned at all about filling a space that big?
No, I never go into doing things with any thoughts of what ifs, No, I always went into things saying, God, like I told you, God, just don't let my voice fail me. The rest I can take care of. I've got a badass band back there. They rehearsed their hearts out, and I know we got it. I know we got this, and everything fell in place.
Between your mom, Victor, and your siblings, I feel like you've got one of the most supportive support structures around you.
Yes, amazing. I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't, that it was family. And, a lot of people say, no, don't get your family involved. They're the first ones that backstab you. They're the first ones that, turn your back on you or they betray you. And it just has never happened that way for us. No.
So where now? What's next?
Well, we've got some things cooking. We've got some really good things coming up this year.
Are you going to continue to play?
And I'm not doing tours. That's very clear. I want the audience to know. I didn't want to mislead them from day one. We always say we're going to do just special big shows, big arenas, and take it from there. And so we've got a couple of propositions this year as well. And it's something that I don't have to do, JP. And that's, I think, what gives me the freedom to do my best, is that I don't have to be doing this, but I'm doing it because I love it and because the fans never left me. And we put it out there and it was a success, and that's all I wanted. I just wanted it to be worthwhile for everybody, not just me. So
you're coming back into a very, very different industry in that there have been artists who have kind of just stuck it out and have been just out grinding and playing the small, much smaller venues and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got these newer bands that are more classified as música mexicana and less kind of pure play Tejano. And, do you feel like that's changed your perspective on what you want to do?
I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to do what everybody else is doing. It's never been my nature. I could never do that organically. I don't have any plans on recording right now, but it's not off the table because it's really an exciting thing to do. And when I heard those people singing my songs after 25 years, that's just unbelievable, JB. I mean, I still, really, it's really still surreal for me how we pulled it off and how the people, I mean, it's really amazing. It's really amazing what happened to me in 2024.
I mean, you've been on break for 25 years, but I mean, our kids laugh. You've been on our Saturday and Sunday playlist.
Really?
Yeah, if Tejano's going to play in our house.
And see, that's what we need. That's what we need for, the parents to pass this small genre of music that is so unique, so different, and so beautiful, that pass it on to the next generations. I'm from Mexico, and my culture is still ingrained in me. It doesn't take away from loving norteño music, regional music. I live here now, and so this music is what surrounds me, and it's the music that I always loved. We still have little Joe, as you know. We have little Joe. We have Ruben out there hustling. That's amazing. They've never stopped. That's a tribute to Tejano music, that they never faltered. They never swayed. They never changed the path that they were on with respect to Tejano music. They stayed true to Tejano, and that's what I want to do. I just want to stay true.
Digo a grito abierto tu nombre.
All right, that was my conversation with Elsa Garcia. Thanks so much to her, to the folks at Wire Road Studios in Houston for recording us. I'll be back next week to close out our season of Viva Tejano with an absolute legend of Tejano music for going on 70 years, Little Joe. You won't want to miss this one. We'll see you then. Adios. Viva Tejano is a Texas monthly podcast hosted by me, JB Salceda. Our executive producer is Megan Kripe. The show is produced by Ella Kapakin and Patrick Michaels and produced and engineered by Brian Standifer. Additional production by Aisling Ayers. Consulting producer is Adrian Arredondo. A huge thanks to our partners, Mirna Perez and Adrian Arredondo, for access to the Johnny Canales Show archives. Keep an eye out for the upcoming documentary, Take It Away, which chronicles the rise and fall of Tejano Hollywood. Artwork is by Jen Hare Tompkins and Victoria Milner. Thank you all for listening. Adios. And remember, you don't need to wait for next week to hear the next episode. Get early access now by becoming a Texas Monthly audio subscriber at texasmonthly.com/audio.